Okay, I'm really early because I'm sitting here and I'm bored and I don't want to wait until noon. Well, noon my time. I know for the rest of you, it's wherever you're at. It could be 1, 2, 3 if you're in the US, or maybe in middle of the night if you're on the other side of the world. If you're even up, some do. Some do. I know I have a lady that follows me from New Zealand. She gets in here to these live shows. But I'm just sitting here, just waiting. Yes, this is me, you guys. I hate being late for anything, and so I make sure everything's in place. I'm all ready to go, and then I always end up being way too early. And so I'm like, you know, it's like yesterday we decided to try out. It's actually a local fellowship here, and they have their, they have their. It's a home fellowship, and so for many years they've been doing this, but we've never gone. And they always have their things on Saturday, and we finally took a step of faith, and they're outside of town a little ways, and I'm like, I don't remember how long it takes to get there. I want to make sure we get there early enough so we can say hi and get comfortable. We're way too early. It's always way too early, but I hate being late. So it's like, well, I'm here, I'm ready to go. I might as well just get chatting. So, by the way, like I always try to say when I first come on here, because I have a set time to start the topic, which is noon my time. So, when we get to the hour mark, whatever that hour is for you, then that's when we will get started on the actual topic. But if you're coming in and watching the replay, just fast forward ahead. If you don't want all this opening stuff, fast forward ahead about 25 minutes. 25 minutes in, that should be, if I'm watching the time, that should be the right time. So it's not that I didn't have other things to talk about, but I will say Patrick and I had a really, really good and blessed time yesterday. It was very necessary. We needed that. It was nice to be a part of a bigger group like that, and definitely needed it. So let's see. I'm going to say hi, everybody coming in. Thanks to Deb for always being in here so early, being my moderator, coming in early with your ranch, ready to put the beat down, which I don't think you really ever have to do, but I appreciate that. So I see Tammy and Glenda, and oh my goodness, my eyes. I should probably put my glasses on. Melinda, Debbie, hello, everyone. And I know there's much more up there that I'm not seeing. So I figured since I'm here early, before I get into the topic, we'll talk about a few other things. And if, by the way, anybody has questions, go ahead and put them in all caps. That can be anytime through the chat. I will try to see them if I, or at least write them down so I can remember to answer them later if it's off topic. Let me get a drink of water. My mouth is already getting dry, and I've hardly started. Mr. Rain will not be joining us today, by the way. It was a toss-up. He goes, this would be a good topic for me to stay and be a part of. But on the other hand, it's not raining, and I really should get up the mountain. I'm like, you should probably get up the mountain because our non-rainy days are going to get fewer and fewer the further into this winter time that we get. So it's not raining today, but it's supposed to rain tomorrow and pretty much all the rest of the week. So it's like, yeah, you should probably go do some work out there. So I need to watch. I have a lot of editing to do of some of his more recent work videos. Now, he's got at least 1 or 2 videos about, I don't know, I think one already published a while back. I've got another one ready to publish on some more of the clearing and stuff he's been doing out there. But some of the things he was telling me today, I'm like, oh, you already pretty much kind of got a road going in down to the creek? Wow. I mean, I haven't been out there in forever. I've only been out there one time because it takes a while to get there. So let me put my glasses on because it seems like I have a question. Remember, if you got a question, it's best if you put it in all caps. You're not yelling at me. It just means that way, that makes me see it. It stands out better, and I know it's a question, but it looks like there's a question. Oh, I didn't know that about Butcher Box. So if you don't have what they call a residential address, I've just never had an issue. I mean, at first when I went to subscribe, they were not available here. But it wasn't that long before they became available in our area. So that was cool. See, do you have a natural remedy for postpartum depression? No, not specifically, but I do have videos on, or I have a video where I list off herbs that are good for stress, anxiety, and that would include depression. So you might want to just search for that. It would, or even if you go to playlists and you look for the natural remedies lists, that's what it's called, I think. And then in that, I have a whole bunch of videos where I break down, like, where I've compiled herbs and other things that are specific to something. So whether it be, for heart health, hair health, skin health, brain health. I mean, all of us could use a little more brain health, especially this day and age. And then, like I said, the stress and anxiety. And those would, again, apply to depression. And several years ago, I did a video just about depression because quite a number of years ago, I did go through some severe depression that medication did not help. In fact, I took it for a very short period of time. I didn't even like it anyway. It made me feel wrong. And so I think I didn't even take it for a month, and I weaned myself off. I'm like, nope, this isn't right. I'm going to have to find my own way. And so, Olympia, you're not too far from me, about a 3-hour drive. My brother lives in that area. So, my dog's barking. He's probably barking at the chickens, so it's probably okay. What was I going to say? I will say that, we all have different things. It can be things, external sources that cause depression. It can be, physiological, like the postpartum. Usually it's all the changes in our body, so it's kind of a chemical change. And, there's a lot that you go through. But whatever it is, there is a way out that doesn't not have to require medication. And for me, it was just, sometimes you just have to kind of pull it. It sounds kind of harsh. I don't mean to sound this way, but for me, I had to pull myself up by the bootstraps and just say, you know what? I'm going to stop hiding from people. I'm just going to, when I go to the store, instead of staring at the ground, because I'm afraid of people right now because I'm so depressed and so anxious and I can't take it. I forced myself to smile at the first person I walked by, and it was hard. And they smiled back. And you know what? That one little thing, it didn't change me overnight. I mean, it wasn't like the next day I didn't have any depression, but that one little thing was that little step I needed in the right direction. And I realized that when we can, and I still have to deal with this from time to time, not extreme like I did back in the day, but I have my moments of depression. We all do. I mean, anybody who's honest is going to admit, no matter what your faith is, no matter what your belief in anything is, we're all going to go through depressing times. Patrick and I have just been through some difficult times that were rather depressing, not serious, but it was depressing. But you know what? The Father showed us another way. And he closed one door and he opened another door, and it's been a real blessing. So the thing is that what was I saying? Oh, it's even when we don't feel like it, even when we really just can't stand ourselves. We hate the way we look, we hate who we are, we all go through that. I mean, I know I do off and on still. We have to make the choice to, regardless of our own feelings about ourselves, remember that there's other people out there that are suffering as well. And when we see those people, we need to smile at them. We need to say hi, be positive, give them a compliment. That I found that the more I did that, I would see somebody in the store, especially if it was a single mom, you could tell she's having a hard time with her kids. I would find some way to compliment her, to give her some kind of praise, because I knew she needed it. And whether that person said thanks or gave me a weird look and like, why are you talking to me? That didn't matter. Hopefully that little seed that I planted did something for them to help them. And those are the things we have to remember. And the person that asked that question, don't think that I'm trying to say that you're being self-centered. That's not what I'm doing. Please don't take it that way. I'm trying to say this from someone who's been there. And I've been there in a very severe state, but I've also been there off and on, like this. So anyway, another question here. Curious to see what they have in store for us this time. Oh, us. Happiness is a choice. You know what, Melanie? That is correct. Sometimes even in the hardest situations, I mean, consider all these people right now that have lost everything. And I don't know what that's like. I might look at some of the situations I've been through that are hard and think, yeah, I've had a tough life. But you know what? The truth is, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. I have never been in a situation where I've lost everything. And I would like to think that if I was ever put in that situation, that I can remember who my father is and remember that he's got it, that he's in control. Sorry. I didn't mean to get emotional. It's been a very emotional couple weeks, but God is good, and he has come through for us so many times, despite the hard things we've been through. So when I realize I'm looking down when I'm out in public, I will compliment someone on their shoes. Love it. Love it. Anyway, sorry. Whenever I talk about those issues, because I know how painful it is to go through that. I do get emotional because I get it. I feel your pain. But, I want to make sure that I continue to be that person that I'm striving to be. I strive to be like Christ, but you know what? I'm human. I make mistakes. I focus on myself sometimes far too much. I guess that's human nature. So, yeah. Anyway, there was a couple other things. Oh, thank you. Thank you, people. You guys are so sweet. I've had so many beautiful comments, and Saturdays, that's a rest day. So I try my best to stay. I mean, I don't get into my YouTube dashboard at all. I stay away from all that. And so I try to avoid emails for the most part. Because usually it's a lot of people asking questions about products or, it's business, so, I mean, I'll get on social media like Instagram or Facebook or X and interact a little bit here and there. But so anyway, the point is I got onto YouTube this morning and I started going through my comments and there was just so many beautiful comments in there, so many positive, uplifting comments. I usually don't get that many back to back. And they were more needed at this time than any other, because like I said, I've been kind of hard on my own self lately. So, yeah, like I said, yesterday was good. God kind of opened the doors to something that was necessary for us both. And I think it's going to be very healing in the long run. So I want to, speaking of healing, we're going to switch it up a little bit. So I was talking, well, it would have been at least 6 weeks ago on one of my this and that videos, or maybe it was a tincture making video. This is the almost ready mullein and usnea tincture I made for Patrick. And I think, if I remember correctly, I was using up the last of the tequila that my son left here when they had a carryover reception when they got married over here. And I'm like, oh, I still have some of this stuff. So I'm trying to get all that used up, and I've been using it to make various different tinctures. And anyway, I wanted to give you an update because Patrick's getting down to the bottom of the previous ones I'd made. I'd had 2. Because he started taking on a regular basis before he goes to bed, because usually at nighttime is when his lungs bother him the most and he has a hard time sleeping. So I asked him, he goes, I'm almost out of this stuff. I'm like, already? And I'm like, well, I have one that's almost ready, but I better get 2 more going. So I did get 2 more going. And when he gets to the bottom of this one, I'm going to get another 2 going so we can always stay ahead because it seems to be working for him. And I asked him, how's that working? He goes, it seems like my lungs have been doing better and I've been sleeping better. I mean, he still struggles with sleep, but I was just like, really, that is so good to hear. I was really hoping the mullein was going to be an answer to him for him, because a lot of people have been telling me how that's helped them with so many different lung issues. And then I decided to just kind of add a little more to it by adding some usnea, because usnea, lungs of the forest, there is also very, very good for lung health, and we can get it for free on our. Of course, now I can get my mullein for free. I still have the stuff I bought a couple years ago to work through, and then next year I'll really be harvesting a lot of mullein off my own plants, because I've got good, healthy plants. But I wanted to show you real quick what I'm talking about. So this is the one I started today. I did use, since I finally used up all the vodka, I still have some whiskey I'd rather just save. So I decided to go ahead and use my homemade wine. I use that a lot for my making extracts because it's virtually free. Where we don't have at this point a still to make our own spirit. So, buying vodka, whiskey, rum, all that stuff can be pretty dang expensive. So anyway, so here's the difference in color. The new one, this one is a little better in 6 weeks. I usually try to let them sit. It's probably ready now, as dark as it is. I mean, look at that again. See how much darker it is? It's probably ready now, but I'm going to leave it in there until he finishes off that last jar, so I can make sure I'm getting every last bit out of there. Then, because of the mullein, you want to strain it through a fine cloth, fine cheesecloth, cotton cloth, linen, something finely knit. Because the mullein, I found out, I was wondering what it was till somebody said something in a comment that I've tried making tea from it several times, not even thinking. And I'm like, why is it every time I drink this, my throat starts itching? Mullein, the little hairs on the leaves, it's not like lamb's ear isn't like that. Lamb's ear is so similar in feel, and the little hair is a very soft hair. But lamb's ear is a little softer than mullein, so that could be why. But the mullein hairs will get in your throat and they will itch so badly. It's really uncomfortable. But like I said, the lamb's ear, they don't do that. So I would have never expected that from the mullein. So you do need to strain it. So if you ever make a mullein tincture, mullein tea, you need to strain it. So now, like I said, I use my little homemade cotton tea bags. And if I'm making a mullein tea, I'll put the mullein in there, maybe nothing else. I'll just put the mullein in the tea bags, and then everything else, I just throw it in a pot with it. But that I leave in there. And I find that works good enough that it doesn't make my throat itch when I'm making tea out of it. So it's funny how that is, though. It's just like, man, so make sure, if you've never done, strain it out one way or the other. So, Elaine, I don't worry about it. I don't worry about it because, yes, and I have lots of videos on this. I do things, I don't follow the book. I just do things. And yes, you learn, okay, some things supposedly extract better with a higher proof alcohol, but alcohol is alcohol and it's still going to preserve itself. The worst that can happen with your using homemade wine is if you don't have a well-sealed jar, it may turn to vinegar. It's still going to work, but I haven't had that problem. An old dish towel, yeah, I could see that working well, especially if it's not a terry cloth, because that seems like it'd be messier. But let's see. Yeah, I come on early, and I came on even earlier today than usual. Usually I try to wait until a quarter till, and just kind of so we can come in, say hi, making sure that notifications get sent out, and then I start on the topic at the set time. That's what I do. It's and that way people kind of know, if they watch the replay, they know they can kind of skip all the intro stuff and know where to go to get right to the topic. So would mullein be helpful for asthma? I would assume so. It's supposed to be good all the way around for lung health. I probably read that, but I read stuff like that all the time. I'm always like researching a bunch of stuff and putting it together. And I'm not going to remember all the facts to be able to just pull it out of my brain that easily. It's too much. I'm always some of these things, it's best for memory. What helps me remember things best is when I'm like, okay, I got to go look this up again. Is this good for lung health? Like I think, yes. Okay. I'm going to use this. So I make something out of it. We try it. It works. Yay. Now I'll always remember that the mullein is definitely a good choice for lung health because it's definitely helping Patrick. Let's see. And let's see I just use homemade wine most of the time. If I have high proof alcohol, I usually will save that for things that I feel like need it the most, like maybe things like roots and barks, things like that, turkey tail mushroom. But for the most part, when it comes to herbs, I just use my homemade wine. It's cheap, very, very cheap, especially because it's coming from the juice from my own grapes, apples, rhubarb, blackberries, whatever. Even this last batch I finished was grapes, and then I threw in some blueberries and currants that I had, from my garden, just to add color and maybe a little bit different flavor, just to kind of play with it. But for the most part, I make them for making medicinal extracts. But let's see. Yeah, self-heal was the one of the newer herbs that came up in my garden since I was giving my garden a rest. I'm like, oh, look at that. I'd only just kind of started learning a little bit about it and then saw it. It might have been there before, but with everything else, when you're putting in a garden, it might have been hidden under stuff, or I saw it and didn't know what it was. Not much, Gudrun, because I just started early, like I usually do. So I haven't got serious into the topic. We talked a little bit about depression because that topic came up. I talked about the mullein tincture. I don't know that I talked about much else. See, I've recently found passion flower. It's amazing. Call me. Yep. Passion flower is one of the first ones that when I was first making, what was it? A sleep tincture. I tried using the passion flower in there. I don't know. Do I still use? I still have some. I bought it years ago. I don't think I'll ever use it all up, but part of the thing is I'm getting to where I'm trying to focus more on herbs that, even though I don't mind stocking up on herbs that I can't get or can't grow, and passion flower I've tried. Even in the greenhouse, you can get the plant to grow for a little while and then it just dies and doesn't come back. Even in the greenhouse around here. So let's see. I've not found organic. See, that's the other thing. It is so hard to find organic spirits. So, but I know my homemade wine is all organic. I know everything is in there. I don't have a bunch of crazy additives. Excuse me. I don't even add store-bought yeast. I make my own starter for it out of whatever herbs or fruit or even peels that I have on hand, and then have that ready. So when I go to make my wine or my mead, that's what I use. I have never used any kind of store-bought yeast of any kind to make a wine. And then they add clarifiers, and then they add this, and then they add that. Not all of them are good. So what is the dog barking about now? I think he's just wanting his own voice to be heard. Maybe he's just wanting attention. Sounds to me like he's barking at nothing. It's probably somebody walking down the road. How dare they? Because, Cody owns the whole neighborhood, apparently. So let's see. Was there another? Yeah, I've never used Everclear. I have no interest in ever using it. That's just me. Some people swear by it. I have no interest. If he keeps it up, I'm going to have to get up and go tell him to be quiet because he's just going to keep barking. His sister's not even here. She's usually the worst. Sometimes if I stomp my foot and he thinks I'm coming in there, that stops it. Maybe it worked. I'd love it if it worked. So what time are we at? We're right at noon. That means it's time to start on the topic, which means this is where I got to start a whole new greeting for those that are coming in at noon, and for the sake of this separate video that I'll make from this. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. God is good all the time. And let's get to the topic today, which is, what is it? Oh, on-the-go preparedness. And here's the deal. I'm not going to list off every teeny tiny little bitty thing because I already have it's a 7-part series. I didn't know it was going to be that long when I started it on the go preparedness, and that you will find linked in the description box down below. I made sure I did that before I even started this live show. So in that, I cover everything, but there's even more things I've added since. Some things just because people are like, you should think about, and I'm like, that is a great idea. So those are the kind of things I'll probably mention today. Plus, I'll show you a few things. I brought a couple of my bags in, which is basically my smallest bag and my purse, but I didn't bring in my two bigger bags because it'd just be too much stuff laying around here. So I'll show you a few things and mostly just kind of list off a few ideas of things that you might want to think about. So what would on-the-go preparedness be? Well, that's going to look different for every individual. It's going to depend on what kind of disaster, like if you're at home, what kind of disaster are you expecting may happen? It is most likely to happen in your area. Is it going to be an earthquake, a hurricane, flooding, fires, whatever? So that I would think some of that's going to have a lot of play, a lot of say into the types of things you want to have ready to go. And when we were faced with that possibility, because it's so incredibly rare here, it's not something we thought of. There was like over 100 years ago, a fire that came through this whole area and just burned everything down. But there wasn't much here at the time because it was just a logging town. But we thought we were going to see that again for the first time in a very, very long time. So it was about a year and a half ago. And it was scary because it was coming from our side of town where we're at. And I was pretty sure we were going to be the next neighborhood put on alert because my sister-in-law's neighborhood had been put on alert to be ready to evacuate. So we decided, let's get ready to evacuate. But thankfully, the winds died down and they were able to get a hold of the wildfire. So it didn't spread any further. But there was at least one family that lost their home, which was sad. But thankfully, we have a good fire department, and they were working together with some other groups and able to get a hold of it. Of course, I'm not just saying that because my oldest son is the assistant chief on the fire department, but it's true. We have some really good volunteers around here. So that really got us thinking in a different way. And it's like, wow, what would I do with my chickens? I mean, we've got our box truck. We can load all kinds of stuff into the box truck given time. But trying to haul the chickens and their feed and everything else, that would just take too long. So I had to think about that. It's like, well, in that case, I would make sure they had a way out. So if they could at least save their own lives, chances would still be I'd never see them again. But at least give them a chance to save themselves. And so some of those, Rose, I'm assuming you're asking me. Remember, people, put your questions, please, in all caps so I can be sure to see them. So if you're asking me, Rose, I live in Washington State, but and we live in the wettest part of Washington State. A lot of people assume that Washington is all rain. It absolutely is not. Actually, the rainiest parts make up the smallest part of Washington State. It's everything that's west of the Cascade Mountains. And then when you get over to where we are in Forks, we are the wettest area. So wildfires, they can happen. They're just rare. We were, because of that, especially the heavy rains we've been having lately, heavier than usual, there are some things getting pretty wet and soggy out there. And we have had some, couple, about 2-3 years ago, about this time, we had some pretty bad flooding all around here. Which even that is abnormal because we do get so much rain that the ground is ready to absorb all that. It's made to absorb all that. So, I mean, this was beyond what is normal. There's a channel that in the UK that I follow, and he was talking about how he's, it's always so cloudy there. And I'm like, I feel yeah. And I told him how much rain we got. And he's like, you guys get more rain than we do. And I'm like, yep. Anyway, see, somebody else I think asked a question. Okay, I'm sorry, I kind of got off topic. So talking about the the on the go preparedness. So there was one preparedness testimony I read. I think it's published, where a lady just gave a really simple, she keeps a box, like a tote, probably one of them plastic type totes, boxes, full of the things that she feels that she needs most for her pets and herself, just outside her door. So because they get a lot of wildfires. So she can just grab that, stick it in her car and go. Um, and again, for each person, it's going to be different how you lay that out. Now, for Patrick, when he was working down south of town, it's about 45-minute drive for him to get down there. And he was working for the park. So he had his little commuter car he bought for cheap. And we finally, since he didn't need it anymore, he finally gave it to his nephew. But he kept that loaded up with supplies because he could get stranded down there. It was right on the beach where he worked. And so it was, whenever there's tsunami warning, even though so far nothing's really happened here, there's still that I'd get a little nervous. It's like, I hope he can get back in time. But he still had, his car full of things. Like he had one of my homemade denim quilts, because it's nice and heavy with the flannel back. He kept that in there. He kept his go bag in there that has all the, the smaller essentials. And he also kept some food items, including some home canned items like a jar of chili, because he can just open that up. And if he has to just camp out in his car, he can open that up and eat it right out of the jar. He also kept like a little, I showed it in like the off-grid cooking live show I did a few weeks back, just a little stove he kept in there. So if he needed to heat anything up, and like I said, he had his go bag, which was a separate thing in case he had to just grab it and leave. Obviously, he wasn't going to be able to haul all that other stuff around, which means in the go bag, he also have, just like with mine, because I have my own too, has like a emergency blanket, like those Mylar kind, and several other things, which I'll cover some of that again today. And a reminder, I'll say this several times, is that in the, I'm going to try to remember to watch to see if any of those commercials come on. In the description box, I'll have the full playlist to my on the go preparedness. All the videos I have in there so far, which is 7, plus this one will go in there, plus the chunk I'll take out of this. So for me, I have like a series of bags. So I have this little, which is more of a wallet. It's a fanny pack, but I don't wear it as a fanny pack. I hate those things, but I liked it because it had all these great pockets. And, if I need to just something small, I can grab this and it's plenty enough. It's got my wallet in it. It's got my checkbook in it, but it's got a lot of other things in it. I've got a pocket knife. I've got a lighter. I have money. Just various kinds of things. I have a little flashlight. I have a file for my knife, a sharpener. It works good as a nail file too. I even have a tape measure. You never know when that's going to be handy. And let's see, just all kinds of just basic little things. Whatever I can pack in here that might be, I might need if I'm just walking into the store and I don't want to carry my whole purse. Now in my purse, I'll have other such things like this little bag I made out of, let's see, it was some rain gear, totally waterproof rain gear that Patrick had bought. We actually each have our own set. It's a jacket and some overall type pants. And because we're short people, we had to cut the bottoms off the legs in order to get them, short enough. So this here is like from a chunk that I cut off the bottom of Patrick's, and it had these little snaps on here. So I just made it so that I could utilize those snaps with the snap that came with it. And I can just close it up that way. But in this, I have a few things. One of them being, it's a totally waterproof pouch. Remember the Sawyer water filter. Now we have a couple of Life Straws. Those are in our bigger bags, but I like the Sawyer because it's smaller, it's more compact, it's easier to carry in a purse. And you can get like a pack of them for a pretty good deal, like a pack of 5, and they're all different colors, which is nice in the sense that if you're getting it for your family and you want everybody to have one and have their own, then everybody can have assigned color. I think there's usually like a hot pink, an orange, a yellow, a blue, a green, something like that. And so um, you just never know if you're going to be in a situation. You're on a lot of this stuff is more things I'm thinking of if we're already on the road. We're making a trip somewhere, even when we'd be going out to our friends, you never know. We had some flooding happening over a week ago that the water was starting to come up over the roads. Well, that could get so bad that if maybe we're out there visiting, maybe we wouldn't be able to make it home. There's all these kind of different things that could happen. And I remember there's been other times where we were traveling in the winter and kind of got stuck in a snowy area for a while. I can't remember why. It wasn't for a very long time. But the nice thing was we had supplies on hand if we absolutely had to rely on them. And so having some kind of food, something high in calories. See, a lot of people get so afraid of carbs. Oh, I'm scared to death of carbs. They're poison. Well, you know what? God gave us carbs for a reason. Now, if you're dieting, trying to lose weight, trying to get your gut health, I get all that. Okay. I understand all that. But if you're in a situation where you could starve to death, you're going to need carbs. That means you're going to need sugar, honey, grains, flours, whatever it is, because you're going to want to survive. This is why I created my own. One time I was thinking I should look into getting some, this is years ago. I should look into getting some food ration bars and putting them in our bags, because those are made to last forever, right? So I was looking those up and I started reading the ingredients. I'm like, this stuff is terrible. But the basic ingredients are simple that anybody can make them. I realized that all it was is glorified shortbread. That's all it is, with a whole bunch of other junk added that doesn't need to be in there. So that's why I created my own recipes for food ration bars. And so we keep those in our bags, and they can last for a very long time, especially if you're using ingredients that are less likely to go rancid, such as coconut oil for your fat. I still think butter would probably hold up okay. I haven't tried it though. But I used unbleached white flour rather than a whole grain flour, just because a whole grain flour, the fat in the grains is going to be more likely to go rancid. So this is why I use a white flour, and then just regular organic cane sugar, and then whatever flavors you want to add. So I've made chocolate ones. My favorite is the ginger orange vanilla ones. And I have a more recent video I did on that where I kind of updated that recipe. They're easy to make. And then you can just seal them up in Mylar bags and then keep them handy. Some other really good things are having, like, if you like them, but I mean, obviously, like Patrick doesn't like sardines, but he would eat them if he had to. And so I keep a can of sardines in each one of our bags. They're great because you can open them without a can opener. They're though we do keep can openers, the little military ones, the P38 and the P51. I always get the number confused. I think it's 51, not 52. The P51 is bigger than the P58 or 38, so I like that one better. But it's still nice if you can just peel something open. So keep a can of sardines in each of our bags, along with the food ration bars. And those food ration bars are meant to be high calorie. You need the calories and the carbs because they give you energy. And if you're having to hoof it somewhere because you're stranded, you're going to need that energy. So those things are important when it comes to, especially just being on the road. Let me read off my list here, a few things, because if I just keep yammering, I'll forget something. And again, this is just a short list. This isn't all the detailed stuff I have in my playlist because it would take me hours to go through it all. But just some of the basics. So I explained how I have basically 4 different bags. I have the small one. It's more of a wallet, fits inside my purse. Then I have a little bit bigger bag. And then I have the actual bigger go bag. It's the camel bag that you would have seen in the thumbnail And Patrick and I each have one of those. So, we have one thing I didn't mention is ponchos. Those cheap little ponchos you got, they're ripstop. They have the hood. Those are great because they have like grommets and different things that not only does it make a great thing to wear to keep you from, especially when you live where we do, or it's always raining. But you can use it to make an emergency tent. You can do all kinds of things. So we actually each have 2 ponchos in each of our bags. So, yeah, I don't sell any food or medicine that I make. Sorry, I just don't do that. That's a whole other thing that one has to get into legally, and I just won't do it. I don't want to get caught up in that. So I have recipes though on how to make all this stuff yourself. I have videos on how to make your own extracts and tinctures, including the one I was talking about earlier. I have videos on making the food ration bars. All you got to do is go to my channel, right? Just click on the channel name. You can open it in a separate window and then look, or just, use the top bar if you're on your phone and just put Rain Country food ration bars. And you should pull up at least 3 videos. One is old, and then the chocolate one's a little newer, and then the newest orange ginger one, that one, that one is the one I say go to first. But let's see. Yeah, I make them. I make the food ration bars, but I don't sell them. I make them just for us. That's my point. I don't sell any of that stuff, but I share my recipes when I create something, and put it out there. And I've been getting in the habit for the past couple of years to try to also type the recipe up instead of just making it up in my head and then not remembering, because people ask, what's the recipe? Well, I don't have it typed up. So usually I'll have either a link to the recipe in the description box or the recipe itself. So let's see. Anyway, some other things. So, a couple things I added because of people recommended it. I'm like, oh, good idea. Didn't think of that. Was making sure we had 1 or 2 pairs of socks. So you have a change of socks. So your socks can get wet. Might need to let them dry out. You're going to want to have some dry socks. You got to keep your feet dry. And we keep in the cars, in the car, whatever rig we're going to take. I always have a pair of waterproof boots for myself that I keep in there along with my bag. So it's the same boots you see in the picture. I think those are the ones I picked up for like $1 or $2 at a garage sale. Some kids' boots that they grew out of really fast. Love that. I love that I can wear kids' shoes because I can get barely worn kids' shoes for really cheap. So, oh, wow. Thank you. I can barely see the name. I think it says Rich Girl. Thank you. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So, and a change of underwear. Make sure you got to change your underwear in there. You just never know. Because even if you only have 1 extra pair of socks, 1 extra pair of underwear, you can wash one. And while that's drying, you have clean ones to wear. Okay. So that's important. And make sure that if it's cold climate, you got warm socks. Now, or if it's like some people do, they might, for the stuff they keep in their go bag or in their vehicles, they might every 6 months switch everything out depending on the difference of the season and how warm or cold it is. Here, it's mostly cold, so I don't really change all that stuff out. So anyway, I always keep a water bottle, stainless steel ones. This is important. Stainless steel water bottles, and I keep them full. I also put in a homemade ingredient that I cannot. In fact, I just had another video removed, and the weird thing is that video had that part already removed from it, and I still got that video removed and got in trouble again. But it was an ingredient that we were talking about on here last week with the initials of C and S. But I put a little bit of that in the water, and it keeps it very, very fresh. I've never had issues with it going bad at all. Even sitting out there all summer, all winter, all summer, winter, never. Still tastes fresh. So the stainless steel bottle, though, is important because it's got to be dark to prevent light exposure. Is going to also help prevent algae from growing in there. And then the precious heavy metal suspended in water. We'll put it that way. Once upon a time, yes, they have. Oh, yeah, we have solar, but we're not 100%. we have a pretty good solar setup, but being that where we are this time of the year, we can't fully rely on it. We have to use a blend of our public power and solar power. Summertime, we rely mostly on our solar power. So anyways, that's a side issue. I should be answering those questions after. Sorry. Knives and tools are important. I have several. I have a knife in this. I have 2 knives in my purse. 2 other knives. One is a skeletal because it's got those screwdriver and stuff on it as well. And then I have another just standard pocket knife, folding pocket knife. And so I always have at least 3 knives. And then in my bigger bag, or maybe both of my other bags, I think I have a knife in each one of those too, because a knife is, not only can it be a form of defense, a knife comes in handy for more things than you would imagine. In fact, the knives in my purse, I've had to use it as kind of an emergency, but it wasn't for the kind of emergency one would assume. So one of them was at my daughter-in-law's, or my oldest son and daughter-in-law, when she was having her bridal shower. That had lovely cake, all this great stuff. Nobody brought a knife to cut the cake. So we used my bigger pocket knife that I had to cut the cake. And then same older son and his wife, when they were getting married, somebody needed pliers. Well, I pulled out my skeletal. Came in handy. They weren't extreme emergencies, but they were things that we needed. Well, I suppose with the cake, we could have just dug in with our hands, but or forks, whatever. But hey, see, being prepared it's worth it in so many ways. It's not always for the bad stuff, people. Let's see, tape. So let me give you an example. Like some people might just keep like a roll of tape, but here's what I do. This is what this little thing is in my purse. I don't even remember what this case is from. It doesn't matter. But I have some extra batteries for a flashlight and even an extra light bulb. I have a mini sewing kit that I put together myself. And then I have this kind of lighter. I have several kinds of lighters. I have a few different kinds in here, but mostly we keep a lot of these. But this black stuff around the lighter is electrical tape. So it's a way that I can have tape on hand if I need it that hardly takes up any more room than the lighter itself. So just wrapped around there. I didn't come up with this idea. I seen somebody do this and I don't remember if it was on a lighter or something else. But the nice thing about this going around my lighter, because this is plastic, it also helps protect it from getting crushed, broken, whatever. So, you might be surprised to find out the things that tape can come in handy with. And then of course, some kind of cordage. And that's another thing too, like in my purse, again, what I'm showing you right here are just things that are in my purse, not the things that are in my bug out bag or my go bag, because that's out in the car and I didn't want to bring it in. But like this here, there's different types of, well, it's not paracord, but like the same company that, I can't remember what it's called, but they make up an actual paracord, but there's different weights of cordage. Now this is just, it's the same brand and it's a very tough cording, but it's not as tough, it's not as heavy duty as paracord. But what I did was simply crocheted a hair tie. And this can, so I can use this to pull my hair back, just like I have with this here. But this isn't going to be near as strong because it's just acrylic yarn, where this is a good tough cording that's made to be tough. And so I crocheted it and I can use it as is, or I made sure I have it so that if I absolutely have to, I can take this apart and I would have at least 3 or 4 times this length if I need it. Then here's another one here. It's a bracelet that I used to wear, but I hardly ever go out, so I'd never even think to put it on. It's made out of the same stuff. And it's just a bracelet that I can put on and wear it. And if I need to, I made sure that I can just simply pull it apart and I've got cording. but I made it crocheted. I mean, you've seen people do that with the actual paracord where they do some kind of braiding, where this is just crocheted, and I like it. It suits me a little bit better than the other kind I'm talking about that I know you've all seen. So again, there was a situation where I had something like that. It was actually a little bit thicker kind of cording than what I used here, but I did the same idea where I crocheted it into a long strip where I could use it as a hair tie. I could use it for whatever. And I had it in my bag that was in the truck. And we were in town. And I don't remember if it's that Patrick forgot to bring his tie down straps or if he decided to get something in town and while we were there, but it was something he had to tie to the top of the truck, and he didn't have anything to tie it down with. Well, I had a couple of those. It worked great. It was nice and tough. We didn't have to undo it with it crocheted. It was long enough and strong enough to hold whatever it was, something long that he had to tie to his rack that he built for his truck. So again, you just never know what you might need this stuff for. So many times some of these things have come in handy. So I mentioned lighters, I say various types of lighters. I even have a ferro rod that, it works, but I'd rather use a regular lighter if I have it. But if I run out of fuel in my lighter, I've got that. Let's see. I mentioned the foods, the water filter. Oh, t-shirt rags. So in our bigger bags, we have we each have a set of camping stainless steel, as small as you can get, cooking pots. And there's like 3 or 4 parts to it. And one part can be used as the lid can be used as a plate. And it's got a handle that either folds out or snaps on. I don't remember. I haven't pulled it out in a long time. But those things can also be very noisy to carry in your bag when you've got a set of them. They only take up about this much room. They're not very big when they're all folded up. But so what I did was because t-shirt rags are a really great thing to have on hand. So what I mean by that is like old t-shirts you don't wear anymore. They got holes, stains, whatever. Cut them up. And every t-shirt that gets, Patrick gets holes in or stains or that I do, we cut the sleeves off. I cut a couple of big squares, as square as I can get it. It's usually not very square. I don't really care how it looks. And then those get used for so many things. And one of the things they get used for is we make sure we have a couple of those in our bags. Because just like with hankies, you've seen people do videos on bandanas. You can use them for so many different things. You do the same thing with t-shirt rag. So what we do is we take those pots and pans and we wrap them. We put the t-shirt rags around them so that they don't rattle so much, especially if you're trying to be quiet if you're walking anywhere. So that's one of the things we do. And like I said, you'll see all that if you watch my video series. Let's see. I see Tyler's in here. Probably been here for a while, but he's a 2 strike anywhere sticks together. Oh, you're just always so funny. So let's see. Any other really important thing? I better put my glasses on. My eyes aren't really happy with me today. Let's see. T-shirt rags, flashlights, water purifiers, water bottles, foods. Oh my goodness, my terrible handwriting. I have something here. I have no idea what that even says, but I did put first aid kits. So I have a couple of, small first aid kits. At least it's something. I even have some different like herbal medicines that I've made and then put them in honey and then sealed them up in tiny little Mylar bags. So they can be used like that. Manuka honey. So that can be used in place of Neosporin or something like that. Knives, tools, and any other kind of personal protection. I don't want to get too detailed. You get in trouble. I can't talk about anything on here. Now, I hear people, other channels that talk about all of the same stuff I talk about, and they don't get in trouble. I just keep getting in trouble right and left. It's really frustrating because it's just like the other day I woke up and I'm like, finally, the warning that was on my channel for 2 or 3 years is gone. And I don't know why it was gone. It mysteriously disappeared. And now I've got another one, but whatever. And it was, again, over the subject that I had to delete somebody's comment last week because they or explaining what it was. I'm like, don't do that. You're going to get me in trouble. Yeah, that one. That one. It's like, why are we so scared of that? The hospitals still use that stuff today, by the way. Let's see. Tape, lighters. What was I saying? I still want to know what I said here. Oh, Wizzy wipes. Wizzy wipes. You might have heard of these. They sound so funny. But let me take my glasses off because I know it reflects that ring light there. So we take these little match holders. They're waterproof. So, but these things are great for so many things. But the Wizzy wipes fit in there absolutely perfectly. You can't fit them in there any more perfect. And they look like this. They're just like a big pill. And they're very, very tight. All you need is a couple drops of water on this, and it will expand into a rag. And you can use it for going to the bathroom. But if you're using it you can use it as a damp rag just to clean your hands with. They are biodegradable, so they'll break down. But if you're just using it for like wiping stuff down, cleaning your hands, you can even rinse them out and hang them up to dry. They're reusable. So I can't remember. I think I say in the video where I talk more about these, there might be as many as 10 in here. I've never needed to use them, but it's kind of cool because if you go to the video where I talk about those in particular, I do provide a link under there. And I'll try to remember later to come back and get that link in here too. But it's a funny name, but you know what? We've never needed to use them, but I played around with it a little bit, just a little tiny bit of water is all you need. And it'll just expands out into a cloth about this big. They're great and take up so little room. I think it's spelled WYZI wipes. I don't think it's spelled like you think it's spelled. But yeah, those are pretty handy to have. And let's see, in the rigs, I talked about the propane stove, blankets, water, boots, a larger first aid kit, because you can only carry so much in a bag, and more food. So, everywhere, like in every version of my bag, I have something that's, maybe a smaller version or a little bit less of something in my purse than what I'd have in the bigger bag, and then in the even bigger bag. And it just depends on the situation that I need them. So again, this is just a short list of some of the things that you should think about. Again, let me reiterate the personal protection, even though I'm not going to go into detail, but you know what I mean. So I even have here in this little case, something that's called the speed loader. So, and I have a couple of those. Personal protection is going to be really important. That isn't just, about protecting yourselves against bad guys, but if you're end up getting stranded, a lot of people think all of these situations involve around some catastrophic event or, world without rule of law. It might simply be that you break down in the middle of nowhere and you got to hoof it home. This almost happened to Patrick the other day, just a couple weeks ago. Of course, he didn't tell me about it until much later. And he was up on the mountain. I've been telling you how wet it's been around here lately. And he had the 10-yard dump truck up there because he's been taking loads of gravel up there because he's putting in a road. Well, he managed to get himself stuck. And he didn't think he was ever going to get out. He was sure no cell phone reception. So he had no way to contact anyone to come help him. And he was sure he was going to have to try to hoof it all the way home. And that is, he would have eventually got to a point where he could at least get cell phone service and call me or somebody else to come get him. But it still would have been a long walk to get to where he would have cell service. And you just never know. And so having the things on hand, I see the skip ad thing. I probably missed the last one, but having things on hand just to help you get home, having the water, having some food, to carry you through, to give you the calories you need, and to protect yourself, because you never know, especially if you end up having to sleep out in the woods at night. You just don't know what you're going to be up against. Having some kind of protection as far as, I was talking about the uh, um, the ponchos, because the waterproof ponchos are lightweight, they're small. You can wear them or you can make tents out of them. That's why we have two, because we can make one as a tent. You can lay the other one down as a ground cover, and they're pretty inexpensive. So yeah, you just got to consider scenarios like that. I think if we start thinking of just the real simple day-to-day things that happen, which, by the way, Patrick did eventually. It took him all day. He got himself out by using his, does he have his backhoe or is that excavator up there? One of the two. Yeah, I think it's his excavator. So he managed to get himself out, but it took him a long time and a lot of prayer. And he actually gives God the glory for helping him get out of that, because he didn't think he could have done it all by himself. But thankfully he made it home, and he actually got home at the time he normally would when he's up there. So I wouldn't have known had he not said something a couple days later. I'm like, great. Now I kind of wish I didn't know, because now I'm always going to be worried he's going to get stuck. So let me read some comments. Okay, let me make sure I'm covering everything. Larger first aid kit, more food. Now, again, I'm going to say this for like the 100th time, and I'm sorry, but there's always people coming in, that I do have the full playlist, because there's a lot of other things that I go into detail about in that playlist, the 7-part playlist, linked in the description if you want to learn more about the things I carry in my bags, plus a few extra things like sutures and whatnot that you can learn about. And I provide the links to anything that's available, so you could check them out for yourself, including, if it's even still available, the set of pots and pans, stainless steel pots and pans that Patrick and I have in our bags. So far, had them for years, never needed to use them, but it's sure nice to know that they're there. And remember, if it's like you're looking at all this stuff going, I can't afford to get all this stuff, don't worry about it. Start small. Start with what you have. Do you have a can of tuna and a little P38 you can put in your car? That's something, and a bottle of water. Anybody can put a bottle of water. I just, again, recommend stainless steel. Don't store plastic bottles of water in your car. They're just, that plastic's just going to keep leaching into the water and just making it nasty. So stainless steel. It doesn't cost too much to get a nice, simple stainless steel. It doesn't have to be some fancy name, something or other. But usually you can find a lot of that stuff in the camping section of your local store. We live in a small town, but we actually have our one big store here. It has a lot of that kind of stuff. We have a clothing department, we have a camping department, and that's where we got our stainless steel water bottles. And our ponchos, I think we got our ponchos there. I know I got this little fanny pack that I don't use as a fanny pack, but I use it more as a wallet. I got that there. We got our backpacks there, our nice backpacks, the camel ones. Again, the ones you'll see in the thumbnail. And yeah, so I know a lot of people, I haven't been able to read all this stuff, but so Rusty Bell, again, if you go, I don't have them all in the links in this video. I'll probably try to remember to go back and put some in there, but if you go to the playlist, the whole series, every video where I'm talking about anything specific, like the Wizzy wipes, the pots and pans, I do link to the stuff that's available in the description box under those videos. So yeah, if you're squeamish about, this is something I forget all the time, so I always appreciate it when people bring this up. If you're squeamish about sutures, super glue and dental floss will do the trick. Dental floss is great because it's so strong. Let's see, anything else? Canopers, yep. Yeah, me too. To the P38s and P31s all over the place. So those of you who've had a chance to watch Patrick, and the ones, and I remastered both of them. He did them back in 2016, 2017. They were jokes. They were supposed to be funny, and I love them. I still love them because he did the one, and it was all started by Keeping It Dutch. He started these, and so different channels got on board. And the first one was how to open a can without a can opener. So Patrick showed like a few different ways to do it, and it was pretty hilarious. But the whole time through that video, he had a P51 hanging around his neck on a chain. He did that on purpose to be a little bit ironic and to be funny. So then he did the second one on how to start a fire without a match. So that one I liked better, but maybe because it also kind of played off the first video, especially the little thing that he did at the end. I don't want to give it away at the end of the, so you got to watch them in order if you go watch those. So it's the how to open a can without a can opener is the first one. Got to watch that one first, so that when you watch the one about the how to start a fire without a match, he does something at the end that you'll get. And you'll laugh when you see it. You're like, oh, or somebody who only watches that video or forgot about the first one, they won't get it. So maybe you could consider doing your live show on Rumble instead of YouTube. Okay. Yeah, I understand. I understand that. Right now, there's a reason why I do most of my stuff on YouTube. Let me tell you something about Rumble. It is great for free speech. It's not great for other things. I am lucky. I do all this work. There's a lot of work that goes into making my videos. Even these live shows, I prepare for them. I'm sitting here for at least an hour, hour and a half of my time. And then, the same, what am I trying to say? I, on a good day right now, make 74 cents on Rumble on a good day. So right now I'm making an average of 60 cents a day for all the work I put in, because I don't know how some people even make it over there. I don't know how they can survive off of income off of Rumble. To me, it's just another place to put my videos or to put things that I cannot talk about on YouTube. But if I'm going to put all this work into something, and even now, I'm not getting paid. I'm still only getting a third of what I used to make off of YouTube just a year ago, because they've kind of had it out for me for a while, but at least I'm still doing way better than I'm doing on Rumble. So unfortunately, well, and that's the other thing, like somebody else said, Rumble can be very glitchy for people who are watching it on smart devices. Not everyone has computers to watch that from us. So they struggle. A lot of times videos will freeze up and they won't even play at all. I haven't personally had that problem, but I don't watch much stuff on Rumble. I don't spend that much time on there. But it might be that one of these days, that's the other reason why I keep putting my videos over there, because one of these days YouTube they might just get rid of me altogether. So I want to know I've already got something well established on Rumble. So please, if you have a Rumble account, subscribe to me there, please. My Rumble link is always in the description box. And yes, if you just look me up, you'll find two channels. One isn't a controlling account. One is my main channel account. One thing I didn't realize until much later is all my videos end up going on both anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the one with the most subscribers is the one you should subscribe to, or subscribe to both. It doesn't matter. But at least I can be pretty well set up there. So if some reason I disappear from here, you guys at least know where you can go find me, because I just don't know the way things are going. Just like that recent video. Okay, let me tell you something about that video. So here's the deal. It was a video that I discovered had that particular substance that had more recently become a taboo subject on YouTube, right? The one I was talking about, adding to your bottled water to keep it fresh. And so somebody noted that my video on my list of antibiotics, antibiotic herbs and more, had that substance mentioned in it and warned me so I could take care of it. So I'm like, oh, thank you, because I'll forget about all that stuff, because I have over 2,800 videos on YouTube. So I removed the video entirely. This was about a year ago. Took it out completely, because if you edit it on YouTube, but the people watching it might not see that part, but it's still basically recorded in YouTube. You have to actually completely remove the video. I cut that part out and then re-uploaded it, thinking it should be safe now. It's all good. That was the video they flagged as having a dangerous, harmful substance in it and violating their medical misinformation, whatever. And I'm like, but I removed that part. but they're never really specific to tell you what it is you did wrong. But the only thing I can think is where I cut that part off is that I did say, because of the ever-changing policies here, I had to remove this part, but the video can be found in its full form over on Rumble. Oh, now that one's gone too. So I don't have any list of antibiotic videos on YouTube anymore, unfortunately. And I'm like, well, should I do it again and just re-record it, just make a whole new one and try it again? Or is there something else I said in there that's taboo? I didn't see anything else in there that's in their list of, because what they'll do is they'll give you a list. They'll give you a list under each of the categories of the things that you absolutely are not to talk about. There was nothing else in there other than just telling people to go find it on Rumble. I didn't provide a direct link. So I don't know. I think it's just a way to make sure that I always have a warning on my account, except now they give you the option of, well, you can take our stupid little training course, a 7-question training course. And then the warning only stays on there for 3 months rather than forever. So medical misinformation can apply to you quoting authoritative medical. Yep. It doesn't matter. You can, even though they say in their policies that as long as you've got the proof to back up, from medical publication, they'll say that is so, as long as you can back it up. But if they decide they don't like it, that won't matter. So they violate their own policies all the time. And that's what is so frustrating. But a person is still more apt to make, at least a little bit closer to what they're worth per hour than they are on any other platform. And I'm hoping that BitChute will get better. It looks like they're trying to change up the way things. I have 2 videos over there right now, but not getting paid. I'm getting paid nothing. So, and I know people are like, well, it shouldn't be all about pay. Well, okay, let me ask you something. For people out there, if you're watching, I don't know if any of you are watching right now, but if you are, let me ask you a question. Are you willing to go to your 8-hour-a-day job? Because that's what YouTube ends up being full-time, or trying to keep track of YouTube, Instagram, X, and Rumble. It's a full-time job because there's a lot more involved than just shooting a video. There's a lot more to it than that. Would you be willing to go to your full-time job and say, hey, I'm willing to work for free because I'm a kind and generous person? No, that's not why you have your job. Now, yes, I like to put information out there because I want people to have the information. But here's the beautiful thing about places like this is I can get paid for my time, as slim as it may be, the pay, and you can still get it for free. That's why it's great. I mean, I don't get paid for anything I do on Instagram or X, and yet I still do it. And that's my time I'm giving away. But anyway, just a point to make is somebody always just, I don't know. Somebody's always, it's okay if their time is worth something, but apparently, if you want to get paid for your time, then you're just a piece of garbage and you're just greedy and selfish. Well, let me tell you something, people. If I was so greedy and selfish, you would be seeing commercials every 5 minutes like so many other people are doing. And I don't do that. The only reason you may see commercials during my live shows while they're playing, while they're live, is because I have no other option. If I happen to see the little thing that warns me that a commercial's coming up, I may not always see it. I will skip it. And then as soon as the video is done publishing, the live one is over and it's done, well, not publishing, it's done rendering or whatever it's got to do. Then I can go in there and remove all the mid-roll ads and just leave the ones at the beginning. So, I got to make at least a bit of something. I could make more money if I had mid-roll ads all the way through. I can't believe videos I start watching, you're 2 minutes in and a commercial comes on. It's like, it's 2 minutes. Are you kidding me? I don't get that. Yes, they're the ones getting greedy. So, because here's the thing, they can choose to take as much of your revenue as they want because they're already getting 30%. They get 30% of anything you donate in the chat. I keep meaning to tell you guys that. I mean, I appreciate that, but YouTube still gets 30% of that. They get 30% of any revenue you make of your hard work. Okay, well, I understand that. They're a platform. They're doing this because, well, that's their job. That's how they're making an income. But and we can agree to that. Okay, 30% for me to be able to put this out because you've got the platform. I'm the content creator. I can take my content off whenever I want. I can put it anywhere else. That's great. But the problem I have is when they decide, and they've done this to other people. I don't think they've done this to me yet, but they've done this to other people where they've penalized them by keeping the commercials on their content, but taking all of the revenue. And so that's like you going to work and your boss saying, well, guess what? I'm upset because you mentioned this. So you're going to keep working for me, but you're not going to get paid. So yeah, it's pretty lame. But most of us keep staying here. Why? Because it's the only place that you can even make any. I tell you, I still don't know how some of these people are making it on Rumble. But at least most of the ones I know of that haven't been booted off YouTube have big platforms on both places. And whatever. So maybe they're making most of their bank over on YouTube and like me making a pittance over on Rumble. 74 cents a day on a good day. Woohoo! Yeah. Anyway, by the way, I want to say again, in case people missed it, you're coming in live. Patrick wanted to join us today, but he needed to go up the mountain while he had a chance so he could get some more work done while it's not pouring down rain, because it will be pouring down rain for sure tomorrow. So, see, I'm not sure. I'm seeing comments, but I'm not sure if I'm seeing them. Mr. Wonderful in charge. I'm not sure if that was in all caps. I'm assuming it was directed at me, but I don't know what that means. Sorry. But yeah, I'm pretty much done with my topic. But if you guys have any other questions, let me see if there's something else. I think I pretty much covered everything I was going to cover topic wise anyway. But if anybody has any other questions, I'm willing to stay here for a little longer because it's not even 1 o'clock on my end yet. I usually try to stay until 1 if my vocal cords hold out. Really, Teresa? Wow. Was that here, Teresa? Was that here on YouTube? On like one of his live feeds or something? I'm curious about that because, man, it's like, yeah, it's lame. I can't say whether or not I have or not. Because I know a couple of people have done that. Like today, I got one, but usually what happens is it gets rolled into your regular YouTube pay or YouTube your check. It just gets rolled into your total for the month. But I don't think Jason, I don't think he has his channel monetized. That could be part of the problem. I don't know. He may need to look into that because if you have, I don't know how that works. It could be that he may need to not necessarily monetize his channel, but do something to where he's got to fill out a W-4 or something like that and have, all the account information. Because like for me, it goes directly into my checking account. It might be that, that was on Rumble. Okay. Thanks, Teresa, for clearing that up. But even then, if he isn't specifically monetized over there, he may have to do, he may have to look in there and see if there's something he has to do in order to get that money. There's usually something you got to fill out and be able to put in your payment information. I'm assuming he's done that, but at any rate, he may want to look into that. And somebody said, I never send super chats or GoFundMe. You know what? I'm the same way. That was Tyler. PayPal. I would like to use PayPal when I can. And the reason why I know a lot of people hate PayPal, which PayPal also owns Venmo, by the way. The nice thing about PayPal is that if you send it as like you're sending money to a friend, you can send it without any money getting taken out on their end. So when you select, like you have two selections when you go to send money to someone. So if you select like you're buying merchandise, then PayPal will automatically take a cut. And the reason for that is it's basically kind of an insurance to cover one way or the other. So somebody doesn't get cheated. So if somebody doesn't get their money or somebody doesn't get their product, but if you're just sending cash to someone to help them out, then send it as if you're sending it to a friend. I think they keep changing the wording, but I think it's like send money to a friend and then nobody has to pay any kind of fee. And so they get all of the money that was sent to them, unlike with a super chat where YouTube's going to take 30% of that. It's still nice and we still definitely appreciate it, but it's just something to know. I also have Patreon and some people, even though all my content at Patreon is free to everyone, anyone can see it, it's all public. Some people still choose to donate there. And Patreon, of course, because it costs money to maintain the site and they've got, it's a job for them too. They take a cut as well, but it's not as big of a cut as it is on YouTube. But Tyler, I've never seen them take a cut if you select the send to friends or family option. Only if you select the option of, you're purchasing merchandise is when they typically take a cut. I personally have never seen it. I've had people just donate money to me through PayPal and nobody paid a fee. And then, when they did the friends or family option, and then most people don't, or they don't know that they have that option. But yeah, for purchase. Okay. Yeah. For purchases. But yeah, I know part of it is, it is kind of an insurance. So if something goes wrong, they kind of help with that. Like when I thought I was ordering Ariat boots. I was paying the price that Ariat boots are. I remember a few years back, and I ended up getting I thought I was ordering from an American company, Ariat boots. And what I got was some cheap, ugly, garish, nasty, terrible, looked like a toy, looked like it belonged to some kind of Halloween costume boots that were not even worth $5. I was so mad. I kept going back and forth to those people. And they're like, well, how about you keep the boot and we'll give you $10 off your next purchase. I'm like, are you kidding me? And they kept doing that. I'm like, you're serious? You're serious? I said, no, I'm not. I don't want these ugly things. How about you give them as a gift to someone? No, nobody's going to want these ugly things. I don't even want to use them for holding plants. They're garbage. I kept telling them these things are utter trash. So the place I order from, they kept trying to, they kept trying to work me. And since I paid with PayPal, I was so glad I used PayPal. I started talking to PayPal. I said, you guys are supposed to be protecting your own people from this stuff. You need to take care of this nonsense. Because it wasn't just happening to me, and it's still happening to people all the time. All the time. You fall for something, you think it's an American, they might put a little American flag, you might read the stuff, and, oh, it looks like they're based in America. No, they're not. They have their sneaky little ways. And so all you get is trash. And anyway, PayPal ended up paying me for it. They ended up covering it. And no, what happened? It was kind of crazy. Either way, it got taken care of. So it's done. Oh, but I know what it was. I had to send those stupid boots, and yes, they came from China. So I had to send them back to China. It cost $30 to send them back, but PayPal paid me the cost to send them back. And they never actually got to the place they were supposed to go. Those ugly, nasty, disgusting. I mean, they were new, but they were just ugly, horrible garish boots with hot pink on them. They came back to me. Those ugly things came back to me. I'm like, I thought I was done. Anyway, it is hilarious to me now, but thankfully I got all my money back. But it took a lot of me just ripping and tearing over that, because I'm not paying $80 for no pieces of garbage that weren't even leather. Wow, it was terrible. So what else here? See you, Tammy. Okay, is there any other questions? I'm sorry, people. I'm really terrible at trying to keep up in the questions. If I skip an ad comes up on your video, does that affect your revenue? I think when you skip an ad, it does to a degree. I think you get like, I don't exactly know how it works, but I think you get a little bit because some of the ad played, but I always try to make sure my ads are skippable. I have very minor control. The content creators have very minor control over ads. Like we can control how many, if there's mid-roll ads or not. But you don't, like if it's a 15-minute long, 5-minute long commercial, or even 1 minute long, you don't have to let the whole thing play. From what I understand, and I'm still not certain this is true, as long as it's 30 seconds plays, that's where the content creator is going to see the most revenue. You don't have to let a whole long ad play. But you still get something. But I just don't know what it is. I don't know how all that works. What about watching in high speed? That's a good question. I don't know. I would assume it wouldn't affect it, but I know how these platforms, they like people to stay on their platform as long as possible. But I really don't know. It is definitely a good question. Okay. Was there something else? Sorry, people. Sorry, people that are watching live and you're watching me read people's questions. I know that's irritating. I also know that's why a lot of people don't like live shows. They don't come in here to watch somebody else read quietly to themselves. I do have a question. Okay, here's a question. I like to increase the speed of playing. Oh, that was the question I think I already answered, because I wish I knew. And yes, by the way, that since you brought that up, let me remind people that if you're watching, like some people, even though some people say I talk way too fast and they can't understand me and blah, 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 and they complain, I'm like, well, you know what you can do? You can actually slow down the playback speed instead of expecting me to change who I am. Or I even have people who still speed me up even as fast as I talk sometimes. And there's different there's different rates of amounts that you can speed it up, like 0.25, 0.50, 0.75. Speed it up too much, person sounds like a chipmunk. Slow it down too much, they sound like they've had a little bit too much, if you know what I mean. So but yeah, at any rate, I do my best to try to keep the ads down as much as possible. I mean, I've got to make a little bit of something, but I try to stick to here's the other thing I think that could possibly be why they've been stomping my channel down. I keep meaning to say this. It could be because they keep getting pushy about to the content creators about doing more ads, about doing more things like having a members only, which I will not do, about having this or having that so that you as a creator can make more money. It's not really about us making more money. It's really about them making more money. And so I refuse. I'm just going to stick with keeping it simple, having my ads at the beginning, and just praying for the best. God will take care of us. I just hate the ads all the way through a video. And I hate being pushed and forced into something. And again, as far as ads, speaking of ads, look at there. Just trying to skip ads again. I have no control over the ads that you see. It's going to be while sometimes they're kind of based on the topic of the video, a lot of times they're more tailored to the person. So like political ads, you're going to see based on either, well, that can be as far as, the president, that can be from either side. But like you're going to see ads more tailored for like your local politicians that you're voting for. So I'll see a lot of ads for Washington State or for Clallam County, things like that. So I have no control over that. And I have no control over which person, which ad for which candidate for which office they're going to show you. I don't have control over that at all. Or which big pharma ad that they're going to put on there. I don't. Unfortunately, oftentimes I wish I did. For me, I'd just get rid of all political ads off of my off of my channel and have none of that if I could. So thank you for working. Thank you, Anne. I've had ball lids rust inside. I have two. I have two, like some of the newer ones. Well, no, let me take that back. I think that's been more older now that I think about it. Lids that I've reused for vacuum sealing or storing things in, like tinctures. That's why I started doing, even though plastic's not great, there's plastic inside your metal lids too. That's why I started using these, because I don't have to worry either those or the jars, like the pickle or the green olive jars where they got the coating, like a rubberized coating or something, so they're not going to rust and they're not going to stick. I do those instead because the metal bands and the metal lids for doing things like tinctures and so on, they're more likely to rust and just have issues and corrode in general. Political ads are horribly annoying. I don't care who they're from. I just get so sick and tired of them. I just want this whole thing over with. I vote Meteor 2024. I saw that meme a while back and it made me laugh. I'm like, there you go. There you go. Let's just get it all over with already. Of course, it's a joke. It's meant to be funny. I know some people were tragically born without a sense of humor, and I'm really sorry. I happen to have a sense of humor, in case you haven't noticed, or at least I try. Not everybody finds me funny, but hey. Let's see. Didn't see one for the care. I don't think that was a question for me. Has anyone tried Azure jars and lids? Now, I know the lids, the Azure standard, the lids that they sell on their jars, at least I think it's still this way, are the superb brand lids that are all US made. They are a great lid. They almost seal a little too well. And the reason I say that is it's great for long term, but the only thing I don't like about them is when you go to open them, because they're a little heavier, they're heavier duty, and they seal so well that when you go to open them, it's really hard to get the lid off of there without it either bending or even the little rubber. It's not rubber, but the little whatever, the sealing part sometimes kind of it tends to come apart. They seal great. And I know the Azure standard jars have those, or at least they did. And those are made in the US. The jars, unfortunately, I've heard some great things about the Azure standard jars. I think they're beautiful jars. Gasket, thank you, Deb. My brain. My brain is not. I need to go watch my video on brain health again. Herbs and more for brain health. Let's see. What was I starting to say? Oh, the jars, unfortunately, as much as I love Azure Standard, and I hate even saying this, but I did notice that the jars are made in China. And I think, like I keep saying, I think it's simply because it is just getting harder and harder to get. There's many things that is getting almost impossible to get them made in the US. And so a lot of people that are making their own company, kind of like 4-jar lids, are also made in China, even though it is an American business. It was, started here. They can't afford to build their own factory and do this. So they get made in China. Now, I keep hearing that they're supposed to be making their own factory here at some point once they can afford it, but I don't know when that's going to happen. So I don't fault people. It's just disappointing. It has to be that way. I don't fault anyone. It's just, and I don't fault anyone for having to buy stuff from China because we do too. I mean, do you really think that your computer, your cell phone, your ring light is made in the US? You can't get any of this stuff made in the US, at least not that I know of. There's a good quality flashlight. Yeah, you can actually get good quality flashlights that are made in China. But because almost everything like this, I think this one's made in China. I'm just assuming it is. This is a good quality flashlight, though. I love this thing. It's the one I was talking about before. It's very, very bright, and it's rechargeable. You can see a long ways with that. But it is things like that. It's almost impossible to find made in the U.S. or made in the U.K. if you're in the U.K. or Australia or New Zealand. Or it's a sad state of affairs. We do the best we can to support businesses in our own country, especially small businesses, not the corporate, controlling everything businesses. Bye, Tyler. See ya. Thanks for being here. But you got to do the best you can too. So I've heard 4 jars. I've used 4 jars because they gave me a bunch for free. I haven't had to buy any. I never even asked for them. They just showed up in my mailbox. I'm like, whoa, look, I got all these lids. But I haven't had any issues with them. Same thing with the Superb brand lids. I haven't bought any of them. I got them all for free. Again, I did not ask for them. They just showed up in my mailbox one day, my post office box. But yeah, I wish I've heard good things about the Azure Standard jars, and I do think they're great jars. The reason I never bought any is because over the past, I don't know how many years now, maybe 10 years, I've collected so many jars from garage sales, family members, people just giving them away. I am loaded with jars. I have so many jars, I can't even keep them all here at the house. We have too many. So a lot. But at the same time, it's like, well, I don't want to get rid of them all either. I want to keep them in case a family member or friend might need them, or I might have an earthquake and I break a bunch of them, get broken, and at least I can have some I can fall back on, Of course, they could all get broken too. I don't know. So, WEC jars are still made in Germany, but they are closer to zero waste since they don't have to. Yep. You don't have to replace the gasket every time. That's very similar to like the Tatler lids and the fact, except for the Tatler lids are plastic, not glass. But you can, I've never had to replace the gaskets for my Tatler lids. I have backups and they're cheap. Yes, WEC jars, I always forget about those. Those are also an option. It's just that they are far more expensive, and a lot of people can't afford. If you saw how many jars I have with food, tinctures, and more put up in them, I can't imagine replacing just the astronomical amount of cost that would go into replacing all those jars with something like WEC jars or the Fido jars that are made in the Bormioli Rocco. They're made in Italy. And I have some of their bottles for storing vinegars, wines, and I love them. They're great. But to get enough to store everything in, it'd be way too expensive. I couldn't do it. I don't know how many people could have that many jars. It could be one of those things where, just like with anything else, you just start with a little bit, and reuse jars. Don't forget, you can reuse jars. And gotta go to work. See you, Derek. As I saying, yeah, reusing jars, pickle jars, green olive jars. I don't buy pickles that much, but we like to get green olives now and then from Costco, and I reuse those jars for a lot of things. They're great jars. Yeah, I can vacuum seal in them, but now I'm getting to where I prefer to use them for making my tinctures. And so once I get all the nuts used up out of the jars, that I have sealed up in those jars, I'm going to start sealing all the nuts up in only my mason jars, my candy jars, and I'll use the other ones for making tinctures because I'm finding I like those best for that. So, hello, people still coming in, and I'm just getting close to ending up here. That's okay. You can always go back and watch from the beginning. That's the great thing about these things, even if you miss live. It's just that you don't get to get in there and chat live, but you can still comment. Remember, comments under videos still help us out quite a bit. How do you test the rubber seal in a used pressure canning pot? I would not know about that one, Anita. Somebody else hopefully can answer that. And the reason why is because I have an all-American canner, and those don't have any kind of gasket. That's one of the reasons I liked it so much. They're expensive, but I like the fact I did not have to worry about the gasket. The only part that would ever need replacing would be the little overpressure plug, and those are super cheap to get extras. I've never had to replace it, but I do have some extras in case I ever need them. See, we buy half-gallon and gallon jars of pickles, and those work great for milk. There we go. And to store it. Yes, absolutely. Anything that size is great. Let's see. I just made skin salve using your recipe, but my herb-infused oil was olive oil based, and I made it last year using lavender. The oil smells okay. If the oil smells fine, it's fine. You probably kept it cool enough that it didn't go rancid. I just get olive oil is great. It is actually a great option. I just always get nervous about using it because I did have some go rancid, but it got way too hot because I was infusing the oil. I thought I had this great idea that I was going to infuse the oil in my greenhouse so it would get warm and it would speed up the process. Well, it got hot, and it was hot for several days. And when I went to check on it, it was rancid. And so that was disappointing. So I don't apply a lot of heat to my oil infusions, and I don't use olive oil for that reason. But if you're doing a cold infusion anyway, where you're just doing room temperature, it really should be okay. And especially if you're using dried herbs, never use, in my personal opinion, never use fresh herbs when you're infusing oil, because the moisture in the herbs can cause issues with it going rancid and so on. So let's see, do I have another question? How about the other jars with the metal locks? Yeah, that would be like there's lots of jars like that's what I'm talking about. There's all kinds of them out there. You've got the Italian brand, you got the WEC. There's a lot of brands out there that carry them, and they're great. They would be great options. They're just expensive. So if you can afford it, great. But not everybody can afford the cost to replace all their jars with something like that. And I'm glad I have the ones I have. In fact, a bunch of them were gifted to me by a subscriber years ago, and it cost her a lot of money just to ship them. I was like in shock. And then to see all the jars that were in there, I'm like, wow, she spent a lot of money on these jars. And I love them. I use them to store some of, like, I have my grain blend I keep in here next to my grain mill is right over there. And so I keep a big jar of my pre-blended whole grains, which is organic barley and organic hard white wheat that I get from Azure Standard. And I do a 50-50 blend, and I use that in pretty much all of my breads. Usually I still mix with a organic unbleached white flour, so it's not too heavy. But anyway, yeah, I love those jars. And I would love to have all my jars be those. Anyway, let's see. Yep, there's some more mentions. But again, garage sales, yep. Just like what was I going to say? Finding pressure canners, anything food storage or food preservation related, like all my canning jars, most of them, a good amount of them I got from garage sales. And we got two different practically brand new all-American pressure canners from a garage sale down the road. Even though I already had the big one, we went ahead and bought them because it was such a great deal, and even paid her more for them than what she was asking, because it was just like, I'm like, wow. I told Patrick, she was only charging $5 a piece for them. I said, pay her a total of $20, because that's a good deal. And even then I kind of feel bad we didn't pay more for them, but you still want to get a good deal. But then I gave the bigger one of the two to my daughter-in-law and kept the smallest one for myself. So if I'm just wanting to do a real small batch of something, I don't have to heat up my big can or worry about what else do I want to can and throw in here that needs to can for the same amount of time. And I really like having that smaller one. That is definitely a nice one to have for that kind of thing, if you just want to do a few jars of something. But not absolutely necessary. Let's see here. Rendering down beef fat, do I need to store long term in freezer, or is it shelf stable? From what I've never actually rendered any kind of fat. I've thought about it, especially to have beef tallow on hand. But I think if it's all rendered down, I think all you should need to do is, I don't think you need to freeze it. Maybe, from what I understand it, maybe somebody in chat can tell me. I don't think it goes rancid like certain other oils do, but even if you are concerned about that, you could, what I would do is probably put it into large, like half-gallon jars, or depending on how much you have, and then vacuum seal. Because when you vacuum seal fat, it does not go rancid. Because one of the big things that makes fats go rancid is oxygen exposure. So even if you're keeping your fats in a cool area, sometimes they can still go, certain ones can still go rancid if they're getting oxygen exposure. So just like nuts. So if I vacuum seal my nuts, all nuts have a lot of fat in them, then they're not going to go rancid. But if I have a jar that comes unsealed, like I found a jar, I was so bummed, of macadamia nuts that had come unsealed, and I didn't know, and they were back there for a while and they were rancid. But the other ones that were vacuum sealed at the same time that stayed sealed were not rancid. And they're in the same area, the same pantry. They stay cool all year round. And so, yeah. So heat, too much heat, and oxygen exposure are the two things that make your fats go rancid. So storing in a cool area, and if you can vacuum seal it, you can be certain. Did anybody answer the question? Nope, I have it. Nope, I have it shelf stable. I'm guessing that's the answer on the tallow. I rendered beef tallow and I did something wrong because it started to grow mold. Ooh, I'm wondering if there was moisture in it, Tammy. That's the only thing that would make sense, because fat itself shouldn't mold. There's something else that didn't get purified enough or something. So I had that happen on my first try too. We made soap from deer fat this year. It's amazing. I've really been thinking about trying. I've always been making my soap we don't use lard. I had lard that I bought because at the time I was thinking it was cheaper for using to make soap. Then realized it really wasn't, and it still kind of had a piggy smell. But once I used all that up, I've just only used coconut oil. I love coconut oil soap, but I'd really like to try at some point like a beef tallow soap. But I'll probably never ever buy lard again. Let's see. What else here? Sorry, people. I'm just trying to get involved in the comments. I usually miss so much. Vacuum seal it. Yeah, I think that's going to be your best bet, just to make sure. Just to make sure, Amita, that it's going to not go rancid on you. And then again, storing it in a cool place. So I'm probably going to have to get going. But anyway, I didn't talk as much about the main topic as I would have liked, but the thing is, like I said, there's so much more that I could cover that is already covered in that playlist. I just wanted to bring this up again to get you guys thinking about some of your options and what's going to work best for you, and what you're most likely going to need because of your area, because of your kids or their needs, or if you have a family member that has special needs, or your pets. These are things you just need to start thinking about, and then just start preparing for, in the way that, at least you have something in your car. At least you have a few bottles of stainless steel bottles full of water in there, and a little bit of food, and whatever. I mean, you got, again, always start small. Never feel like you got to just, I mean, we didn't just run out and buy all this stuff at once. It was all little bits at a time. And we kind of built on it. And then you always get better ideas and different ideas, and you get them from other people. Just like people tell me, you should keep an extra pair of socks in there. I'm like, oh, duh, socks. Great idea. So I made sure I had 1 or 2 extra pairs of socks in our bags. So these are all the kind of things to think about. And again, go check out my full series that I have linked in the description box down below if you want more ideas. And I hope you enjoyed the live show for today. Wait, one more question, Heidi. Do runner beans runner beans and bush beans cross-pollinate? Deb, I am not positive on that. I don't think they do. I've grown several different types of beans all amongst themselves, like the purple potted pole beans, the scarlet runners, the sunset runners, and a few other ones, and never had them cross-pollinate. And I always save the seeds and replant them again and never had any issue. Even though the sunset runner and the scarlet runner look very, very much alike, I can tell the difference in the color. They have a little bit different color to them. The darker, kind of more purpley ones are the scarlet runners, and then the kind of more orangey colored ones are the sunset runners. I love growing both of them because it just looks so pretty in the garden. So I didn't plant beans this year, obviously, because I was giving my garden a sabbatical rest. So I am really looking forward. That's one of the things I probably missed the most, was growing my beans. I'm just crazy about growing the beans because, I can have the dry bean, I can have the green bean, and I get to have these beautiful plants through the whole season that just climb up all over everything because I plant them all over the place. I love them so much. So anyway, yes, I really got to get going. Got some other things I got to do, and I can feel my vocal cords telling me it's time for me to close up shop and stop talking so dang much. So with that said, hey, everybody, love you. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you in the next live show. And let's see if we got